evening. You're watching Republic and I'm Deepthi Sachdeva. We quickly get kick-started with our focus on what's been happening in Mumbai right now, that is the India Alliance, and there is also a special session of the Parliament, remember, that has been called by the government. What is on the agenda? What possibly could happen? We deep dive into that subject and lots more. Let's quickly get kick-started this edition of the news with a quick up-breaking coming right now. Now, even as we told you more of the upcoming special session of the Parliament, remember, this is a story that Republic is breaking right now. What possibly could happen in that special session? It's a big scoop right now on what the government is planning to entail. The Modi government may bring the One Nation, One Poll bill. This, remember, has been in the offing for some time now. You've heard the Prime Minister speaking about One Nation, One Election. Could that now be introduced in the Parliament once you will see a special session that happens in September? Now, this is still initial information, remember, coming in right now, that we could see elections simultaneously to the Lok Sabha and to the different assemblies. And many would say that this is something that has been in the conversation for some time now. One nation, one election, how this benefits everyone, and there could be development work that continues in the rest of the period. And this is a scoop that Republic is getting to you right now. I'm told Abhishek is with us. He has more details of this. Abhishek, there has been a lot of conversation on this, enough and many hints, also by the Prime Minister himself. What are sources telling you, Abhishek?
Deepthi, this is still source-based information coming in. Remember, just about a couple of hours back, there was a tweet by the Parliamentary Affairs Minister Prahlad Joshi, and in which he said that there is a special session of Parliament that has been called, and it's going to be 5-day session beginning September 18th. And I'm getting this information that this is actually about One Nation, One Poll bill that the government wants to bring in. Now, whether this is brought in the form of a resolution first, or whether this is actually a bill that's coming, that's something which we have to still ascertain. But then what is important is that it is not without specifics that a session is called, and that's the reason why a session is being called. A One Nation, One Poll is something about which Prime Minister has spoken from very early days as the Prime Minister, in fact, even before he became Prime Minister. And that is one possibility which is being talked about in the context of this special session of Parliament that has been called.
But Abhishek, why don't you run our viewers through everything that we've heard on this big idea in the last few years? Because I do remember the Prime Minister, Abhishek, speaking about this on multiple occasions. And he said that how, a lot of development work stops because of the Model Code of Conduct. He stressed on the idea that how we as a country need to move towards the format of One Nation, One Election.
Sorry, Deepthi, I missed your question. My attention was somewhere else. Can you repeat the question again?
Yes, Abhishek, I just wanted you to run our viewers through the many, significant points of this One Nation, One Election format that you have seen the Prime Minister himself speaking on, and saying that how a lot of inconvenience possibly could be moved out because of the Model Code of Conduct that sets in before every election.
Well, I must emphasize, Deepthi, that this is still some information coming in that this is a possibility that the special session has been called because the government wants to bring in a One Nation, One Poll bill. It's going to be very controversial. It's not going to be easy to pass. It's something which is going to take a lot of energy of the government to even mobilize its own allies, for example. So this is a qualifier coming in, because remember that the tweet of the Parliamentary Affairs Minister on the special session say that this is about Amrit Kal discussion. So the initial thought was that the special session has been called because the government wants a very comprehensive dialogue discussion on how India is going to look at 2047 and the roadmap, possible roadmap in consultation with the opposition parties, and that seems most likely still to be the intent. But this one nation, one poll, because you asked about the format, the face of or the contours of this thought. Essentially, what happens is that we have just completed the Karnataka elections in May, and we are already looking ahead to 3 state elections in the month of November, December, and then 4 state elections, and then we have general elections, and then by the time general elections are over, then you're looking at elections in Haryana, Maharashtra, for example. So I think that is the reason why, and until 1970s, there was this thought in practice already existing that the general elections and the state assembly elections will happen together. So it's not that this has not happened earlier. The thought with the Prime Minister was, insofar as one nation, one poll is concerned, that you do it in one go, and then you are not looking at an election cycle and the consequent model code of conduct and the paralysis of governance that happens, because for those many days you can't take new decisions, you can't be executing new projects. And so I think that is the thought. But as I said, the big qualifier is whether the government wants this session only on roadmap to 2047 or bring in this bill also, because as I said, it's going to be taking tremendous amount of political capital on the part of the government to even convince you to all allies. And so that's the reason why I think that maybe still it is about 2047, but this is also being talked about, and that's the reason why I thought we should bring it to the notice of our viewers.
Oh yes, Abhishek, what I'll do is I'll quickly just let you go so that you can track more information for us. And in the meantime, let's quickly recap what we know on the story. We'll also get more political reactions on possibly what could just be the biggest ever election reform. Could this see the light of the day? Now, remember, this right now is only and only according to sources. This is a scoop that Republic is learning more about, that the government could table this one nation, one election bill in the upcoming special session of the parliament. Now, I quickly want to, jog your memory through what Abhishek was also underscoring, that it's not that this was not the pattern in the country. This used to happen in the 60s and the 70s. In fact, until 1967, the cycle of the state and the central elections was largely synchronized. Now, what this means? This means that largely we used to have state and the central elections at the same point until about the 1967s. Then later you have seen a lot of fracture years, you have seen a lot of assemblies that were dissolved before tenure. So this changed the cycle of the elections to the assemblies of the state and to the parliament. Now, because of this, there is election that happens almost every few months, is like what the Prime Minister has also indicated. Now, I was just wondering what could be the cost of election, because this is what, again, a rationale that the government has put forward, that the cost of elections is getting pretty high every time. Now, research tells us that in the year 1952, the cost of elections was about 10.45 crore. In 2014, it jumps to about 3,870 crores. So that is the kind of gap that we have seen. That is the kind of expense that is really spent on holding an election. And this, remember, is only the cost of the election commission, excluding transportation, security management, advertisement by parties, and many more. And over the years, you have seen an increase in the expenditure as far as these elections are also concerned. Not just that, you have the model code of conduct that kicks in, and that's what the Prime Minister said, that it's important that we also focus on development, on Vikas, and not just think about elections all the time. So could this be a reality? No one knows, but there could be better utilization of resources, is what people say. Not just of security, but also of development-related activities that could be synchronized. I'm told we'll also have a panel of guests joining us in just a moment. I have Gyanendra Mishra ji, who's a political analyst with us. Also Amitabh Sinha, he's a political analyst, will just join us in a bit. Gyanendra Mishra ji, good evening. I'm not sure whether you're aware of this or not, but this is a story just breaking on Republic right now, We are learning that possibly in the upcoming special session of the parliament, we could see the government moving closer to one nation, one election. Would you hail that move?
Good evening, and thank you for having me on your channel. Obviously, this is one of the most important and heated topic right now in the country when the Parliamentary Affairs Minister has announced for this special session of Parliament, which will convened on 18th to 20th September, and with the 5th session. And the speculation is very high on the purpose and intent behind this special session, particularly for the reason that the minister has not disclosed any reasons for announcing this or convening this special session of Parliament. Particularly when the major important festivals in Maharashtra like Ganesh Chaturthi will also be happening. So there are discussions around and the intention behind the dates of the session as well. But as you are saying, everyone is speculating. There are wild speculations in the political, the arena that what is the reason behind this? What would be the intent and reason behind this special session? And many of the people are speculating that this could be for the two reasons. One, that you are indicating that the very important and hotly debated and discussed bill of one nation, one poll can be introduced in this session of Parliament. Or the speculation is also there that there may be, lot of, praise and advertisement for ruling dispensation in the backdrop of successful Chandrayaan-3 mission. But
Gyanendra ji, because you're also a political analyst, do you believe that this is an election reform that is needed in the country? Not just when you talk of perhaps having more governance, less of disruption, saving money for the exchequer, and trying to ensure that, politicians and we as a country just not focus on elections, but a lot more that can be done for the people. Are you for the idea, sir?
Yes, in principle, I support this idea. This idea is a very positive idea in terms of cost management, resource mobilization for the election. And as you were indicating and explaining earlier, that in the initial year after the independence, in the 2 or 3 elections, it was the trend to have election at the national and state level simultaneously. And this is the topic of discussion as a part of the political reforms for quite long. And I, in my personal capacity, do support this idea because this is a idea which is going to save a lot of efforts on the part of the national exchequer in terms of the cost management, resource mobilization, as I said, and so it is a very important and positive step. But of course, the timing and the way of bringing it in the special session of Parliament would certainly be questioned, particularly when the election in the 5 states is going to happen.
But why? If the idea is good, Gyanendra ji, that's the question I would ask, because I think this is the problem of most of the political parties. I want to get in Amitabh Sinha ji, who's also a political analyst, who's with us now, that, you will say the idea is good. Idea to acha hai, Amitabh ji, they will say, a lot of opposition parties, but they will question the timing. So you have a problem because it is Narendra Modi taking forward this great election idea. Is, that Modi hatred, Amitabh ji, do you believe that that is good enough for us to dwarf the idea? Because the idea is huge. Could we have one nation, one election? Are we ready for it, Amitabh ji?
Let me express my immediate reaction that all what you are talking about or you are debating about is speculation only. And see, one nation, one election is genuinely a very important and very good idea. And Prime Minister Modi had already, initiated this debate long back. But I don't know exactly this bill is going to be considered in this special session or some other thing in the agenda. I don't know exactly. And particularly, I am really not sure that this type of very big issue can be immediately brought into the consideration for this parliament. This is my personal view, certainly. This is no doubt one of the best electoral reforms what India can foresee or plan as far as present day scenario is concerned. But it is a really big leap, very big step, and a lot of preparations are to be done, and these things are not a child's game. So my point is, it can be tabled max to max, but it should be debated properly, and the preparation, which is the key word for this major electoral reform, is to be considered by Modi government, because I know that this step will change the entire electoral scenario of this democracy. So I think the preparation.
Though you do say, and I would also qualify that this is according to sources. There is no confirmation to this effect. But we've heard the Prime Minister speaking about this idea multiple times. We'll also get in our colleague Shravan, who's joining us in the conversation in just a moment. Yes. But Amitabh ji, I was quickly, trying to find out what are the reactions we've heard from different political parties. Now look at what the AAP said. The AAP said, we vehemently oppose the proposal of one nation, one election. They said this is unconstitutional and against the basic principles of democracy. They said one nation, one election proposal is a front to legitimize what they call the Operation Lotus and legalize the sale and purchase of MLAs. This is what the AAP said. So Amitabh ji, in the light of all the politics that you have seen behind this idea, what would you want to say to these political parties who see red in any move that the Narendra Modi government makes?
I would say that this is nothing but a fear psychosis, clear fear psychosis of all opposition parties, because, I was just going through one, very recent survey done by some agency that Modi is 80% ahead as popular leader of the country, and not in India, but throughout the world. So this basically is the fact that Modi is unchallenged. And because of that, any move of Modi or, the government of Modi is, creating shivers in opposition camp. Our party is not certainly, like exception. And they have, they have question of existence for them. Because if one party, one election, one nation policy is being implemented, then obviously Modi will become the face of one nation, one election, scenario, and so the entire opposition will almost face extinction at this moment, at least. So obviously, their reaction is, they are going berserk.
But Amitabh ji, the case in point is also what's happening in Odisha, because Odisha had elections to the state assembly and to the parliament simultaneously. But there the voter is able to distinguish that he's, voting for his chief minister or he's voting for his prime minister. So I think what you said is very important. Fear psychosis by a lot of these opposition parties. But gentlemen, please stay with me. We'll carry forward this conversation. But before we do that, why is the opposition seeing red in everything that's happening? I'm told Rashid Alvi of the Congress is also joining us right now on the phone line. Rashid Alvi ji, good evening. And thank you, sir, for speaking to us in Republic. We are learning that one nation, one election possibly could be that big idea that the Modi government could moot in the special session of the parliament. Is the Congress supporting that idea, sir?
How can Congress or any party support it, whether there is any dictatorship in the country, without consulting, without sending any bill to the standing committee? Is there any dictatorship in the country that whatever you want, you will introduce this? Then you will ask political parties to support you. Nobody knows what is this, what kind of bill this is. How can you run this country like this? Is there any dictatorship?
You said this is dictatorship. Now, Rashid Alvi ji, just before you joined us, we were speaking about what happened in Odisha, sir. The state of Odisha voted for the state and the parliament simultaneously. You're saying that is dictatorship? Our country used to have this until 1967, simultaneous elections.
I think you are unable to understand. There are several political parties in the country. Of course, you are ruling over the country because you have majority. But you will not consult other parties without consulting anything.
Okay. Okay, that's a fair point. Consultation with everyone.
Yeah,
Yes,
definitely.
that is a fair point, Rashid Alviji. I'm requesting you to hold that phone line. Let's get the first response also from the BRS. Mr. Revela Reddy is with us. Mr. Reddy, good evening, sir. How would you respond to what sources are telling Republic? One nation, one election. Does the BRS support that idea?
No, I mean, just now the information is coming in. We have to see what exactly will be the agenda of the government, how they are going to propose this, because we don't have any details. Let the details come in, but, practically it doesn't seem to be possible, because there are many states, voted in a different periods and all that. How can they be bringing in? So I don't think it's practically possible, but let the government come out with the modalities, how they are going to do it. But as my congressman was also saying that, it's need a wider, consultations before they table the bill in the parliament. It is better in such a, if they wanted to bring in such a, huge reform, it's better the central government take the other political parties also into consideration and go for a wider consultation and debate on that. Not only political parties, there are many organizations which are working in the state, in the country for the betterment of democracy. So in such a big country, we have to have, a full-length discussion on this, wider debate on this. Then only they should be going to this, number one. Number two, practically, because even in such a big states, even while conducting the elections, supposing if they are conducting in 3-4 states at once, they are going in, phases, 5 phase, 4 phase, 3 phase, like that. How come one poll, one nation will be possible to conduct such a huge election in the entire country at once? So this will have a lot of, consequences on the entire process, a lot of impact on the entire process. They have to come out with a plan. So, it needs huge money, it needs huge deployment of resources, it needs a huge... so in such a big country, I don't think it is...
But it saves money, no, Mr. Reddy. That is what the logic has been. But I think both you and Rashid Alviji make fair points that everyone should be consulted and all political parties should be on board. So in principle, I'm assuming that both of you gentlemen are with the idea. I'm just going to come back to you. I'm told also Mr. Kumar of the JDU is with us. Neeraj ji, good evening, sir, and thank you for your patience as you were holding the phone line. Neeraj ji, मुझे ये बताइए कि अगर one nation, one election होता है, क्या JDU उसका समर्थन करेगी? क्या आप इस आइडिया के साथ है, सर?
2019 के बीजेपी के घोषणा पत्र में तो नहीं लिखा हुआ है। ये निश्चित रूप से नए दौर में अभी तो मणिपुर में 48 मिनट असेंबली चला, 48 मिनट, यहाँ डबल इंजन की सरकार है। तो ये ऐसे सवाल है जिस पर तमाम राजनीतिक दलों को विमर्श करने की जरूरत है। ये नरेंद्र मोदी जी अगर एजेंडा इसको बना करके चुनावी अभियान में जाना चाहते हैं, इसका मतलब है बुनियादी मुद्दों से वो भटक रहे हैं। अरे ये चुनाव आयोग का मामला है, विभिन्न राजनीतिक दलों से संवाद करके कैसे इसको बेहतर किया जाए, इलेक्शन रिफॉर्म को के दिशा में कैसे आगे बढ़ा जाए, ये वन पार्टी की जिम्मेवारी नहीं है, ये सारी पार्टियों की जिम्मेवारी है। इसमें सबके साथ विमर्श होना चाहिए। हमारी पार्टी का क्या नजरिया होगा, हम तो पहले भी स्पष्ट कर चुके हैं कि हम लोग चुनाव सुधार के पक्षधर हैं, लेकिन अब पार्लियामेंट में जब ये बिल आएगा तो हम पार्टी अपना पक्ष रखेगी। लेकिन ये घोषणा पत्र में नहीं लिखा था इन्होंने कि हम इलेक्शन रिफॉर्म करेंगे, ये कहीं इनके घोषणा पत्र में नहीं है। तो जो कहा तो
चलिए, घोषणा पत्र में नहीं होगा। नीरज कुमार जी, आप सही है जब आप कहते हैं कि घोषणा पत्र में नहीं है, लेकिन आपको नहीं लगता कि एज अ कंट्री हम हर कुछ महीने में एक इलेक्शन होता है, उस पर समय भी व्यर्थ होता है, इतने फोर्सेस लगते हैं, उन सब का वेस्टेज होता है, पैसे की अलग वेस्टेज होती है, फिर मॉडल कोड ऑफ कंडक्ट लग जाता है। तो बहुत समय से सरकार को भी इस बात को लेकर चर्चा है कि इसको कैसे कम किया जाए। नीरज जी,
नहीं, बिल्कुल आपकी बात से हम सहमत है। अभी तो राहुल गांधी जी ने जो आरोप लगाया उस पर ना जवाब दें, अडानी वाले रिलेशन पर जवाब देना, करप्शन पर जवाब दे।
ठीक है, आप भटका रहे हैं सर, बात को भटका रहे हैं। आप वन नेशन वन इलेक्शन पे बात नहीं करना चाहते,
आप इसको मुद्दा नहीं बना रहे हैं।
ठीक है,
हमारी उम्मीद
मैं किसी पॉलिटिकल पार्टी का हिस्सा नहीं हूँ सर। मैं सवाल तो आपसे भी पूछूंगी, सवाल भाजपा से भी पूछे जाएंगे।
नहीं मान रहे हैं, लेकिन हम उम्मीद कर रहे थे कि राहुल गांधी वाले को आप महत्वपूर्ण जगह दीजिएगा। दुनिया के अंदर भारत की प्रतिष्ठा जा रही है, इतने बड़े विदेशी अखबार के द्वारा प्रमाण के साथ, सारे साक्ष्य के साथ उन्होंने दिखाया। हमारी उम्मीद थी कि आज इसको प्रमुखता मिलनी चाहिए थी।
नीरज जी आप रिपब्लिक थोड़ा ज्यादा देखा करिए सर, क्योंकि आज दिन भर वो खबर चलाई गई है। राहुल गांधी ने जब सवाल उठाए हैं नरेंद्र मोदी सरकार पर, उनका प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस भी लाइव था सर। लेकिन देखिए हर खबर की अपनी इंपॉर्टेंस होती है सर नीरज जी, और इसीलिए हमारा ये ड्यूटी है कि हर क्वेश्चन को लेकर आप लोगों से सवाल किए जाए, लोगों से सवाल किया जाए कि कैसी प्रतिक्रिया है। But thank you नीरज जी कि आपने हमसे बात की। I'm told Riju Datta also of the TMC has been patiently holding the phone line. Riju, okay, I think we've just lost that phone line, but it'll be important to see how you will have the other political parties respond to this huge idea that possibly has been in the offing for some time now. And like I said, right from the Prime Minister to a lot of other leaders, that includes the Union Home Minister Amit Shah, they have been the votary of one nation, one election, and they say that it's time to go in for this big ticket election reform. Riju Datta of the TMC is back with us. Riju, thank you for speaking to us on Republic. Good evening to you. How would you respond? Would you be supporting the idea of one nation, one election, Riju?
See, I cannot say that we will support the idea of this, because the senior leadership needs to take a call on this. But one thing is very certain, that when the last monsoon session was washed away because the Pradhan Mantri could not find time to address the Manipur issue, now all of a sudden, when there is a Mumbai summit of the India Alliance, there is a 5-day special session in the parliament, which clearly indicates one thing, rather than going into the technicality of this one nation, one election debate, is that in November, December, we all know there are Vidhan Sabha elections in 5 very important states of India. And then post that, in the next 3 months, in the month of April, May, there is the general elections in the country. So one thing is very clear, that BJP, as per their internal survey, as per the RSS survey, they are not coming back to power. As a result, they want to mash it all up, bring it all together so that by hook, by crook, or by any means possible, if they can somehow save their skin in this election, because they know that their expiry date.
But Riju, is there merit in that argument that you made, or you're betraying your nervousness? Because see, Riju, if you say this government is so unpopular, the Prime Minister has done nothing, people are really anguished, people will not vote for them, whether it's a state election or whether it's the election to the parliament. I mean, the government loses by both sides, no? So isn't that argument of a defeatist?
I respect, can I speak? I respect the argument you made, but if I look at it from a different perspective, and my perspective is this, that in barely 3 months, there is major elections in 5 states, right? The Pradhan Mantri himself on the floor of the parliament and on many government programs, he has said himself that I am coming back, right? He has said that. So if he is so confident that he is coming back, let the general elections be over, and in the first parliamentary session, after the general elections are over, you can place this bill. Why a special session to place this bill before 5 important elections and the general elections of the country? When you are so confident that you are coming back, why don't you see it from this perspective, from the opposition's perspective? Right?
Okay.
So
Riju,
yes,
the point is, there are so many loopholes, Riju, in that argument, because you have a problem right now if the government brings in this bill, but you're saying the government should wait, win the next election, the parliamentary election, and only then bring up this bill. And you say in principle there is no decision yet whether the TMC goes with the idea or not. I appreciate that you're speaking to us, Riju. Look forward to speaking to you again. I want to go back to both the gentlemen who've been very patient as we were speaking to different political parties. Also our colleague Shravan, who stays with us. And Amitabh ji, Gyanendra ji, before I come to you, I quickly want to take it across also to Shravan. Shravan, in the political circles, this has been the narrative for some time now, that the Modi government really wants one nation, one election. But this scares the opposition because they say, listen, the same, states where you are holding these elections simultaneously, possibly on the name of Modi, the face of Modi, the opposition believes that they possibly could end up losing their elections. Then there are examples of what happened in Telangana earlier, what happened in Odisha. So, Shravan, does this political analogy even correlate to the fear of the opposition? Shravan, before you answer that question, and apologies, I'm told Varis Pathan of the AIMIM is also with us. Shravan, apologies, I'm going to come back to you. Varis, good evening and thank you for speaking to us. Are you with the Modi government on the idea of one nation, one poll?
Well, madam, I don't know anything about that. Just now I just read, I was just traveling. I just came to know through the media that a special session is called from 18 to 22nd of September. And I don't know whether they are introducing bills or whatever they are getting it. Let us see wait and watch. Why to be in a hurry? Let us read what is there. Why they have called for the special session. Just now I was traveling, a lot of traffic in Mumbai because of the
But in principle, Varis, you are very informed. You are a very seasoned politician, Varis. Tell me, do you support the idea of one nation, one election? Do you think India should move forward towards having one nation, one election?
Well, let us see. What about just merely saying one nation, one election does not take us anywhere. Why do they want? Because earlier what we were listening to them was that to save the money, to save time, to save the energy, everything, they wanted a one nation, one election. But if everybody is there, I am not the only person, so let me just get through. Let me just get back. Let me just read properly what are the things they want to bring in about, whether one nation, one theory. How do you know that they're getting the bill right now? Do you have any sources or people are saying the sources are saying?
That is another thing. I'm saying whenever the bill comes in, will the AIMIM support this or not, Varis? And there isn't much to read about it. You know, all the state elections and the central election will be synchronized to have it in the same cycle, Varis.
Well, that will be decided by my party, whether we are with it or we are against it. And if we are with it, why? And if we are against it, why? That will be decided by the party. Have some patience. All the very best. Thank you so much, madam.
All right. So Varis Pathan wants us to be patient. He's being very, very cautious. That's very unlike Varis Pathan. But thank you, Varis, for speaking to us. And before we again go back to our guest and our team of reporters getting you more details on what possibly is the Modi government planning to do, I quickly want you to listen to what we've heard from the Prime Minister on a number of occasions. The Prime Minister, remember, has been the votary of one nation, one poll. He has said that we need to come out of the cycle of having multiple elections, model code of conduct sets in, development work gets affected, plus there is a loss to the exchequer. So could we be seeing a huge movement? Listen in to the many times the Prime Minister has spoken about the idea.
आज लाल किले से जब मैं देश को संबोधित कर रहा हूं, तब मैं ये गर्व के साथ कहता हूं कि आज हर हिंदुस्तानी कह सकता है, वन नेशन, वन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन। और हम सरदार साहब का एक भारत श्रेष्ठ भारत, इसी सपने को चरितार्थ करने में लगे हुए हैं। तब ये साफ साफ बनता है कि हम ऐसी व्यवस्थाओं को विकसित करें जो देश की एकता को बल दे, देश को जोड़ने के लिए सीमेंटिंग फोर्स के रूप में उभर करके आए। और ये प्रक्रिया निरंतर चलनी चाहिए, वो एक समय के लिए नहीं होती है, अविरत होनी चाहिए। जीएसटी के माध्यम से हमने वन नेशन वन टैक्स उस सपने को साकार किया। उसी प्रकार से पिछले दिनों ऊर्जा के क्षेत्र में वन नेशन वन ग्रिड, इस काम को भी हमने सफलतापूर्वक पार किया। उसी प्रकार से वन नेशन वन मोबिलिटी कार्ड, इस व्यवस्था को भी हमने विकसित किया। और आज देश में व्यापक रूप से चर्चा चल रही है, एक देश एक साथ चुनाव। ये चर्चा होनी चाहिए, लोकतांत्रिक तरीके से होनी चाहिए, और कभी न कभी एक भारत श्रेष्ठ भारत के सपनों को साकार करने के लिए और भी ऐसी नई चीजों को हमने जोड़ना होगा।
So that is one of the occasions where the Prime Minister spoke about one nation, one election. We are hearing the bill possibly could see the light of the day in the upcoming special session of the Parliament. Like I said, all this is very source-based information right now, but we are also trying to find out where do different political parties stand on this. I'm told Shakti Singh ji of the RJD is also with us. Shakti ji, namaste, हमसे बात करने के लिए शुक्रिया. आप क्या वन नेशन वन इलेक्शन के आइडिया के साथ है? क्या आपकी पार्टी इसका समर्थन करेगी सर?
नमस्कार. सबसे पहले एक बात है कि इस खबर को मैं पुष्ट इसलिए नहीं मान रहा, ये सूत्रों के हवाले से खबर है. ये खबर कोई सरकारी अफसर से या सरकार ने इस तरह की कोई अधिसूचना या इस तरह की कोई बात नहीं कही आधिकारिक तौर पे. रहा सवाल, कई सवाल हैं जिन राज्यों में 1 साल पहले 6 महीने पहले चुनाव हो गए हैं, क्या उसमें संविधान में संशोधन की आवश्यकता आनी पड़ेगी? तो कई सवाल हैं जिनके 1 साल पूरा हुए हैं, 1.5 साल पूरा हुए, जिनके 24 से पूरे हो रहे हैं. मान लिया स्टार्ट करा सकते, लेकिन बहुत राज्य ऐसे हैं जिनके चुनाव 1 साल पहले हुए, 6 माह पहले हुए. उन राज्यों के लिए संविधान क्या कहेगा, कानून क्या कहेगा? एक सवाल है. वन नेशन एक साथ हम चाहते हैं कि वन इलेक्शन हो, तो उसके लिए एक व्यापक चर्चा और कई तरह की चीजें आनी चाहिए. आनंद में ये तो डरी हुई भाजपा का ये कहीं ना कहीं एक शगुफा मैं मानता हूँ. जो इंडिया जो गठबंधन की बैठक मुंबई में हो रही है, उससे घबराई भाजपा तरह तरह के शगुफे छोड़ रही है. ऐसा आधिकारिक है भी नहीं, चूंकि एक चैनल ने इसको निकाला, उसके बाद कई चैनलों ने पकड़ा है सूत्रों के हवाले से, तो मैं इसको पुष्ट खबर भी नहीं मानता. इसलिए कोई अनमैच्योर्ड कमेंट होगा इस पर किसी प्रकार की कोई प्रतिक्रिया देना.
लेकिन शक्ति सिंह जी, आई थिंक यही दिक्कत है ना, जब आर्टिकल 370 के एब्रोगेशन की बात भी थी, तभी बहुत लोग ये नहीं मानते थे कि सरकार ऐसा कदम उठा सकती है. लेकिन जब सरकार ने वो कदम उठाया तो ऑपोजिशन वाज इन अ स्टेट ऑफ शॉक. इसीलिए मैं आपको ये कह रही हूँ शक्ति सिंह जी कि अगर ये आइडिया आता है, अगर ये बिल आता है, तो क्या आरजेडी इसका समर्थन करेगी? आप कहते हैं कि भाजपा डरी हुई है. अगर भाजपा डरी हुई है सर और स्टेट और सेंटर में एक साथ इलेक्शन कराएगी, तो वो तो हार जाएगी, तो उनका नुकसान होगा.
देखिए, 370 डिफरेंट मैटर, वन नेशन वन इलेक्शन की डिफरेंट. एक्चुअली सबको लेकर के लोकतंत्र के राज्यसभा में प्रधानमंत्री जी ने कुछ पूर्व बोला था, उन्होंने इन चीजों पर चर्चा की थी. उसको लेकर के लोग उस पुराने वीडियो को लेकर करके दिखा भी रहे हैं कि उनकी इच्छा थी कि लोकतांत्रिक तरीके से इस पर बात होनी चाहिए. कि जब हर क्षेत्रों में वन की बात हम कर रहे हैं, तो वन नेशन वन टैरिफ क्यों नहीं हो रहा है इस देश के अंदर में? टैरिफ क्यों नहीं हो रहा है देश के अंदर में? कई चीजें हैं देश के अंदर में. आप जानते हैं कि कई ऐसे राज्य हैं जहां पर महंगी बिजली मिलती है, वन टैरिफ नहीं है देश के अंदर में. यह भी सवाल आप लाते हैं किसी चीजों पर, तो पॉलिटिकल पार्टियां तो अपनी प्रतिक्रिया और अपनी राय सदन और सदन के बाहर दोनों तरफ देगी. लेकिन चूंकि अब ये सूत्रों के हवाले से खबर है और ये घबरा करके खबर निकाली गई है कि इंडिया जो गठबंधन की बैठक हो गई है, इससे ध्यान भटकाने की एक इनकी अपना जो है पूरी तरह से शगुफा मैं मानता.
ठीक है शक्ति सिंह जी, आप आरजेडी को रिप्रेजेंट करते हैं और आपका अपना व्यू पॉइंट रखने का पूरा अधिकार है. आप ये मानते हैं कि हेडलाइन मैनेजमेंट है, देयर इज नो ट्रूथ बिहाइंड दिस स्टोरी, बट आई थैंक यू फॉर स्पीकिंग टू अस. So as viewers, you must have noticed, much of the opposition right now is being very cautious. They either are questioning the timing behind this entire move, if and all it comes in by the Modi government in the upcoming special session of the parliament, or they say that you have to have a larger consensus. So we spoke to Congress, we spoke to the RJD, we've spoken to the JDU, we've spoken to leaders of the BRS, to the AIMIM. They all say wait and watch. We want to discuss, we want to have a larger consensus, but we as a country, are we ready for one nation, one election? Could that be the big idea that the Modi government could be moving forward towards? On the other side of this quick break, we carry forward and get you a lot more breaking updates that you need to know.
In the global employability rankings by Times Higher Education UK, only the following 6 institutions from India are ranked amongst the top 230 in the world for having the most employable graduates. IIT Delhi, IISc Bangalore, IIT Bombay, IIM Ahmedabad, IIT Kharagpur.